Benefits of becoming a UFC champion include notoriety, wealth, and being remembered as one of the greatest in the history of mixed martial arts. Having said that, an athlete's back is also heavily targeted when they are the best in their division. Only the best can sustain the immense pressure of defending the title for any extended period of time. History has demonstrated that all it takes is one small error for a boxer to lose a championship. Of course, in order to succeed, the real greats frequently overcome adversity. In light of that, we're going to highlight a few champions who, although they came dangerously near to losing, eventually rose to the challenge to hold onto their championship. Now, without further ado and ranked in no particular order, let's take a look at 10 times a UFC champion nearly lost. Number 10. Jon Jones vs. Vitor Belfort. At the height of his light heavyweight title reign, Jon Jones was seemingly unstoppable. As champion, Jones beat several legends of the sport and frankly made it look easy most of the time. However, his historical title reign almost came to an end in September of 2012, when he faced Vitor the Phenom Belfort at UFC 152. Late into the first round of their title bout, the Brazilian sank in a deep armbar and looked to be seconds away from closing the show. Miraculously, Jones managed to break free from a position in which many fighters would have tapped. From there, the champion took over the contest and would eventually submit his opponent in the fourth round. It was later revealed that Jones suffered a strained ligament in his right elbow from the armbar that nearly cost him his title. Number 9. Jon Jones vs. Sonnen. Vitor Belfort wasn't the only fighter who almost ended Jones' title reign prematurely. Though the fight itself wasn't particularly competitive, the American gangster Sonnen almost managed to walk out of UFC 159 with a world championship. Their relatively one-sided bout came to an end at the 4-minute and 33-second mark of the very first round, with Jones being declared the winner via TKO. However, after the contest had ended, it was revealed that Jones had maimed his toe during the fight. The injury was so severe that the doctor would have certainly stopped the bout in between rounds had they made it out of the first. Though it would have easily gone down as the flukiest title win in UFC history, had Sonnen lasted another 27 seconds, he would have been awarded the UFC title via doctor stoppage. Number 8. Mac Hughes vs. Frank Trigg 2. There may not be another human on the planet who's watched more MMA than UFC President Dana White. That's why when White says his favorite fight of all time was Mac Hughes vs. Frank Trigg 2 at UFC 53, it's quite the compliment. The classic welterweight title bout featured an epic comeback on the part of the champion Matt Hughes. During the contest, an unseen groin strike allowed Trigg to gain an early advantage and even secure a rear naked choke. For a moment, it looked as though Hughes' title run was seconds from being over. However, the welterweight champ managed to fend off the choke for roughly 2 minutes. After finally escaping, Hughes hoisted his opponent in the air, slammed him to the mat, and secured a victory with a rear naked choke of his own. Though the entire contest lasted just over 4 minutes, it was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame's Fight Wing in 2015. Number 7. Brock Lesnar vs. Shane Carwin. In the late 2000s, Colorado's Shane Carwin was one of the scariest fighters on the planet. A proven finisher, the former Division II wrestler put away his first 12 opponents in the very first round. The impressive streak set him on a collision course with the heavyweight king Brock Lesnar at UFC 116. That evening, the champ would become the first man to make it out of round 1 with Carwin, but just barely. The challenger absolutely pummeled Lesnar for the majority of the first round, to the point where the referee could have justifiably stopped the contest. Somehow, the WWE superstar managed to survive the beating and would face an exhausted Carwin in the second round. Fortunately for Lesnar, he was able to take advantage of a worn-out challenger and pick up a second-round submission in a gritty showing. It is easily considered one of the greatest comeback victories in UFC history. Number 6. Georgia Street Pierre vs. Carlos Condit. One of the bloodiest title fights you will ever see went down at UFC 154 in Montreal, Quebec. The event featured hometown hero and welterweight champion George Street Pierre taking on interim champion Carlos Condit in a title unification bout. For the most part, Street Pierre used high-level grappling to control his opponent and pummel him on the ground. That said, midway through the fight, the natural-born killer nearly pulled off the upset. During the third round, Condit landed a well-timed head kick that sent the champ crashing to the mat. From there, the Albuquerque native proceeded to smash GSP with some nasty elbows, putting Street Pierre in serious trouble. However, the Canadian hero persevered and eventually got back to his feet. Street Pierre would win the bout via unanimous decision, but for a moment there, it looked like he might not make it out of the third. Number 5. Ronda Rousey vs. Liz Carmouche. When the UFC signed Ronda Rousey in November of 2012, it planned on building the entire women's division around the budding star from Riverside, California. Of course, her first UFC opponent, Liz Carmo, nearly spoiled the party. In the promotion's inaugural female fight, Carmo managed to take her opponent's back in the first round and applied a face crank that almost changed the course of MMA history. However, the former U.S. Marine was unable to lock in a rear naked choke fully, but still appeared to have the former Olympian on the verge of submitting. Rousey ultimately powered out the hold and eventually submitted Liz Carmo with her signature armbar, retaining her UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship in the process. Had Liz Carmo managed to derail Rousey, it very likely would have stifled the organization's interest in promoting women's MMA, given the hype and star potential the champ possessed, making a Carmo win one of MMA's greatest what-if scenarios. Number 4. Maynard vs. Frankie Edgar 2. The UFC 125 lightweight championship bout between Frankie the Answer Edgar and Gray the Bully Maynard features one of the most dominant rounds you'll ever see without a finish. For the vast majority of the opening round, Maynard lived up to his nickname and bullied the champion. The New Jersey product was beaten from pillar to post, and it appeared a title change was inevitable. However, Edgar's heart was on full display that evening by surviving the opening 5 minutes when many fighters in his shoes would have folded. Even more impressive, the Answer managed to claw his way back into the contest and force a draw, thus retaining his lightweight title. Number 3. Aldo vs. Hominick. Ontario, Canada's Mark the Machine, Hominick was an outstanding striker in his prime who came ever so close to achieving MMA greatness. From 2008 to 2011, the Machine put together an impressive 5-fight win streak that led to a showdown with featherweight king Aldo at UFC 129. As fate would have it, Hominick would enjoy a home field advantage since the bout was contested in Ontario. While Aldo was controlling things in the early rounds, Hominick got the crowd back into it in the 5th by almost finishing the featherweight legend. During the round, Hominick managed to put the Brazilian on his back and land some vicious ground and pound throughout the remainder of the fight. Unfortunately, for the 45,000 fans in attendance, time ran out before Hominick could finish the job, which led to a unanimous decision victory for Aldo. Number 2. Khabib Nurmagomedov vs. Dustin Poirier. Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov enjoyed one of the most dominant MMA careers in the sport's history. With an undefeated 29-0 record, which includes wins over Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier, the pride of Dagestan is rightfully considered an all-time great. Still, for a few moments in his UFC 242 contest with Poirier, the Eagle's lightweight title reign appeared to be in jeopardy. As per usual, Nurmagomedov used his world-class wrestling to maintain control throughout most of the fight. However, early in the 3rd round, the Diamond cinched in a deep guillotine choke that had Khabib fans worried. While the undefeated legend eventually broke free, it was arguably the closest anyone has ever come to beating Nurmagomedov in the UFC, which is pretty remarkable. In the end, the champ managed to retain his title via a rear naked choke in the 3rd. Number 1. Robbie Lawler vs. Rory MacDonald. The UFC 189 welterweight title bout between ruthless Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald was nothing short of an instant classic. Both fighters left it all in the ring in the type of contest that takes years off an athlete's career. While the 2015 Fight of the Year winner would go down as a victory for the champion Robbie Lawler, at one point MacDonald appeared to be seconds away from dethroning his rival. In the closing moment of the 3rd round, the Canadian welterweight had the ruthless one against the cage and proceeded to hammer him with a vicious combination of punches and elbows. Just when it looked like the ref might jump in any second, the round came to a close. Of course, Lawler ended up TKOing the challenger in the 5th, a bout that will likely wind up in the UFC Hall of Fame someday. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Apart from that, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.